Dear EA, this is a letter from your forgotten middle child, the hardcore player. Because you see, on one end of the spectrum, you've got the casual player. There might be more of them, and they might be more important, but I think at this point, they're a bit too spoiled. I mean, you said it yourself when FIFA 17 was over. You said, in FIFA 17, certain features were harder to do for the more casual users. We felt that the big moments are what make football great, but they were limited to certain users who were super advanced. So we just added more of an opportunity to do the kind of wonder goals that you see on there. Skill moves is another one where people aren't aware of how to do them. It's only like the top level few that do them, so it's about bringing the cool stuff more to the masses, giving people the opportunity to do more wonder goals and the like. And look, I completely understand, but I think in the past 2 years we have crossed a line. And it's time to stop spoon-feeding these epic moments. The worst part is that we have a community that doesn't even band together, because if one side of the spectrum has the casual player, on the other side we have the pros, the pro player, and those who qualify and maybe even play for events and compete and have a chance of qualifying. The ones who year in and year out are good because they accept the game for what it is. They embrace the flaws and they use them to their advantage. But just because they're using those things doesn't mean they don't agree with what some of us hardcore players are saying. I'm sure a lot of them would agree with everything I've said this year. Some, however, they do live in their own paradigm of diluted self-accountability. But what does that mean? You see these tornadoes? These El Tornadoes? Yeah, I know. They're ridiculous. But what's even more ridiculous is that I've had pros or players that have participated in events come to me to tell me, you know, your video was interesting, but at the end of the day, it was your fault for conceding them. Like that even matters. Like anyone should ever worry about these situations, about this nonsense. I get being self-accountable. I understand it. Kudos for you. Great for you, my guys. I respect you because you're always taking responsibility. That is the right mentality if you want to compete. But at a certain point, you have to ask yourself, am I doing more damage than good by excusing these sort of moments? You know, we all get it. You're incredible at the game. We understand that no matter what's broken, you'll still qualify or compete. But since it doesn't matter what's the meta, since it doesn't matter what works because you're saying you'd qualify either way, why do some of you profoundly interject when the hardcores just want a better representation of what they think a football video game should be? Why the defeatist argument? It doesn't matter. Just let them do what they want. Let them make what they want OP. We'll adapt anyways. So you see, EA, the last group are the hardcores. Players that vary in so many ways in terms of their skill level. They may range from people who don't even qualify to Weekend League to people who hit top 100 and Elite 1. But they all have the passion to play your game. Some of us aren't good enough to even care to compete, but we just want a game that rewards the right decisions at the right time for the right people. Some of us are just too stubborn to change their ways and abuse the mechanics to no end. We don't want to do what's the best in that specific game. We want to play our way and hope that there is a logical way to make that work every single year. All of us, at least I hope all of us, have really struggled with your game this year. And let me show you why. Let me show you a day in the life of a hardcore player throughout your modes. Because you see, it might be a Tuesday night and you're just in the mood to win some games in Division Rivals, play some good football, and you're winning 2-1, you're feeling good, game's tight, but it's almost halftime, and then look at that. Would you look at that? Your opponent scoop turns, you clear it, and somehow he scores that, and you're like, how the hell did he pull that off? How the hell did my keeper not save that? And then you have a gander at the post-game replays, and you notice that his jump defies the laws of physics when you're jumping left with that momentum to then hit the ball with that power. But to make it worse, it hits Khalid, your own player, in the shoulder to give it the trajectory it needs to go through your keeper's arms. But it's okay. We move on and we make the score 3-2 to you, and then you concede that. A goal that by all means you have patched and made it much more rare, but let me show you what it should look like. That's right. This is what the graph should look like year in and year out. Every shot like that should have a 0% chance of going in. It's just the only way at this point, because how are you going to tell me that this has a low percent chance and I concede it anytime people try this? And then we make it 3-3, but then we concede this, the new variation, the modern variation, because modern problems require modern solution. The pros, the competitors, the bug abusers have adapted and they have created this variation. And so what started as a desire to go into Division Rivals and to play a game and deservedly win turned into a game where you're sat there wondering, man, if 75% of this guy's goals weren't atrocious, I would have won. So you decide to go into a second game. You try your best to stay composed and just get that one win for the night, just so you can feel better and move on with your day. And then you concede this, a rebound, and then the rebound obviously falls to Ronaldo. But when you go into the replays, you notice how on God's green earth did I not intercept this pass? Because with how passing assistance is, and with how interceptions are poor this year when you manually attempt them, this is not a surprise when he shoots through you. It literally makes no sense. But your keeper bails you out. Finally, right? Finally. That red Ederson that everyone on this planet has finally does something useful. But the ball ends to Ronaldo, but you're thinking there's no way. We're covered. We got Vieira covering the first post and the keeper covering the first post. But he pulls off a double nutmeg. From that angle. A double nutmeg because it is Team of the Year Ronaldo. But it's alright. You move on. You score a goal. You win the game 2-1. And yet you feel empty. Because you've just won a game. Barely won a game when it should have been an easy clean sheet. So you go into another game. Let's see if we can make matters worse. And you intercept a pass, but it keeps bouncing back and back. And then you move and your Hullet moves out of position and he first time shoots after a first time pass play with Cavani's weak foot. And of course, you think in the moment, there's no way that he was wide open, right? Because when you go into the replays, it obviously goes through his legs. And so it's 1-0, but it's okay. You don't give up. It's early in the game. And he makes it 2-0 with a corner because it's 2019 and there's still nothing competitive about corners. It's purely one-sided and whoever gets them gets a free goal. And I'm sure tons and tons of pros would agree that corners are just free goals that you have to use if you want to compete. But you don't give up. It's still early in the game after all. You snatch a goal back and you try to get a second one, which you do thanks to your Hullet, thanks to time finishing. You bang that one in because without time finishing, there's no way that doesn't go in. And then you concede what is a pretty decent goal for this game. But guess what? It sucks for you because the first 2 goals you conceded were completely out of your hand. Maybe the corner you could have moved your goalie first post, but all in all, it took 3 goals to get 1 good one. And there you are with another loss when you wonder how the hell did that happen again. And so after a night where every single game in division rivals just went awfully and everything went against you, and no matter how well you played, you would always concede an extra goal because of how this game works, you decide, I'm going to go into draft. I'm going to go make use of a game mode where maybe the matchmaking is a little more forgiving for a hardcore player. And when you enter the draft, you're greeted by players who, even though they're worse than you, they are capable of scoring goals that are just beyond human comprehension. Goals that you should see 1 every 1,000 games, but they have become common occurrence. Goals that reward mindless decision making because a block results in a rebound, which results in a flick up, in a first time volley. Goals that result in nutmegs even though you did nothing wrong and he just goes through you, and even though your player could block it, he moves out the way. And here we are, even in your most casual of modes, at least casual relative for a hardcore player like myself, because we know that for a casual player, the draft is not a casual mode. But for a hardcore player, for some of us, it might be the casual mode, and not even there are we allowed to just relax, because this is what happens when you're a hardcore who just wants to play football. And so I know you've said all the right things for FIFA 20. I know you have fixed, because I've played FIFA 20. I know you have fixed so many issues, but I implore you, please do all that you can with the remaining time that you have to make FIFA 20 a fair game. Because a game doesn't become fair when the tornadoes stop, when the croquetas stop, when the first time shots stop, when the volleys stop. Fairness begins also when the passing assistants stop, when the nutmegs stop, when the bad decision making stops, when the defensive mentality is doing all your work stops, when the defensive AI being stupid stops, when the offensive AI being stale stops, when the long shots stop being so effective, when the near post long shots mistimed stop being effective, when conceding in the near post becomes actually incredible, depending on the situation, of course. And overall, even though we need the casual to stay engaged in the game because that's what keeps the game going for all of us, and even though the pro will always win no matter what, stop using that as an excuse for your game. Stop using that as a way to say this game still has a skill gap. It doesn't matter. Just look at what people have to do to be consistent. Do not forget about the hardcore player. At least for a year, spare a thought for the hardcore player. For the player who might deserve a win even though they didn't do all the new features that you have implemented. Because when a hardcore player has been playing your game for years and years and years, and he has mastered the art of passing and defending and decision making and tackling, at least to the best of his abilities, he shouldn't have to learn new gimmicks, to survive. To survive. We're not even saying to dominate, to survive. At the end of the day, those of us who care are all rooting for you.